welcome back to another one of my YouTube videos and welcome to my YouTube channel. So I know before we get started, I look like I'm wearing the same thing as the last video. I just want to preface and say it is an entirely different day, an entirely different time when this is being recorded. I just been wearing a lot of black recently, and it's so funny that I'm starting off the video like this, but you know what? What is life without a little bit of giggle and laughter? Because honestly, these times are so tough. I feel like if I don't laugh, I might just cry and just like stay in there. So I only wear black when I want to protect my energy or when I'm genuinely subconsciously grieving something. And right now, what I'm grieving is the old part of myself. And if you've been keeping up with me and you've been following me for a while, then I've talked about all these things. I've talked about how I've been going through a transformation, especially over the last 3 weeks specifically. Mind you, I've been taking a break. If you watched my previous video, then this is going to make a lot of sense because this is a follow-up to that video. But if you haven't watched that video, I'll leave it linked up here so you can watch it or like in the link box below because this is not going to make any sense, okay? Oh, and if this is your first time running into my content or like my page, like, hi, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. Hi, bestie. Thank you so much for the support. This is the channel where we're spiritually progressing and also spiritually depressing sometimes. So that sounds like you and you're wanting to be a part of this experience and do life with P, then welcome. Welcome to the light show, right? To the light and dark show. Anyways, this morning when I was sitting in prayer and just I've been taking a break from all the spiritual practices, and I kept hearing that there is a union happening. And I think for the longest time, for the past, I'm going to say like 16 years, 16 to 20 years roughly, I've been trying to merge with my higher self, like completely, like that oneness, that bliss, that God energy. And I've always been it. But what I'm healing now is the separation component. Does that kind of make sense? I hope that's making sense. Because I remember when I heard this, it was making zero sense. And then it just like clicked and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So I feel like I'm finally coming back home to myself, right? And these last 3 weeks very strongly have been the finale of that chapter. And I know that after this, there's a big ending and I'm grieving. And I find myself, like right now, I just came back out of a farmer's market. And if you didn't know, I'm back in Florida. I was in California for a while. And now I'm back in Florida for a lot of different reasons, which I will talk about on here. So just stay with me, bear with me. But I've just been grieving and I've been feeling so like ungrounded. Like these past 3 weeks have been so ungrounding, so grieving, sad, like this deep 5 of Cups energy, like this deep sadness and this grieving of this old self, but also the yearning of this new self. And it's like I find myself in this in-between stage of like, I don't know who I am. It's almost like I knew what the path was before me. And then it's almost like now it's kind of just like completely disappeared. Like the path has disappeared. Like I can't see the way forward. I am just trusting my heart. And the only thing my heart is telling me right now is to document all of this, like to create content around this, to just express. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that I've been healing my inner child. I've been healing my voice. I've been healing speaking out publicly and just sharing my experience, sharing what I've accumulated through my own wisdom, learning how to be my own reference and how to free myself from these shackles and these burdens and these things that just are too much for me, right? very restrictive. It really feels like Pluto in Capricorn, which is Saturn energy, right? And it's like very restrictive, like inner child wounds, right? Breaking through that. And I've been working through that for such a long time, but I think this past 3 weeks to the past month has been like the finale, like literally the eye of the storm right now. And I'm just grieving and crying. And even just a little bit ago, like as I was at the farmer's market, there was so much gratitude for how far I've come. And there was also this like state of sadness because that version of me doesn't exist and it's not coming with me. And it's so interesting because what I keep thinking in my mind's eye is that there are old versions of me, old characteristics, let's just put it that way, right? That will come with me because they are imperative, like the strength and the wisdom and the resilience. And then there are new aspects of myself that I have yet to discover, like new gifts, like a more compassionate heart, a more eloquent and exquisite and calmer and more feminine version of myself that's just birthing, that is trusting and is releasing control. And to be honest with you, I am grieving so much. Like I am grieving relationships right now, which I do plan on making another video about that. So don't worry, that's coming. I'm grieving relationships right now. I'm grieving my career and my life purpose because as much as I've enjoyed doing this, I've gotten to a point where I'm just like burnt out on doing the same thing. And I'm not talking about creating content on TikTok because I'm still going to do that. And I'm also going to be creating content here on YouTube. I love that. Like that to me is what keeps me honestly sane. Creating content and sharing my experience with you guys helps me feel like more grounded and more connected because I love this. Like I genuinely love this. And it feels like I'm just sitting down talking to a best friend and saying, hey, like this is where I'm at. This is what's happening. But outside of that, I had the privilege, because I feel like it's a privilege, to have my own business where I was working one-on-one with clients and with people. A lot of you guys who are watching me, some of you guys had gotten to be a part of my life and I had gotten to be a huge part of your life. And it was beautiful and I loved it. But I feel like this past month, I am completely on burnout. Like I'm completely gassed out. I said that in the last video. And I had to make the tough decision of kind of just putting a stop to the sessions, to the readings, to the healings, and really, really, really look to take a break, just focus on content and the things that kind of like pour more onto me, and really be very strict, like lay down these laws and these lines to protect my own energy so I can recharge. And to be honest with you, that's really hard for me to do because I'm so used to giving that I feel like a lot of my worth I've placed in giving. So if I'm not giving and I'm not doing, it almost makes me feel like I'm not worthy. And like, okay, what is the meaning of life then, right? And recently, I've made the decision that I am going to be working with this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful soul that came into my life. She's this awesome lady. And I'm not gonna say her name just for secure, like privacy purposes. And you know, I want to make sure that she's, you know, staying in her energy. But I decided to work with her, and in regards to my Akashic records and my constellation family and just things that I know I've needed help with for a while, but it wasn't aligning yet, right? And I am a firm believer that like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And a lot of the things that I talk about, by the way, are based on my experience. So it comes from my own inner wisdom. Some of these things I didn't learn from anybody but myself. And then there are some things that I had teachers with or teachers for. So I've had two great teachers in my life, two of them which I've outgrown, which are not here any longer on the physical plane. And I've had to go on my journey on my own. And I think it's healthy, by the way. I think that, I've carried out a lot of my ancestors' wisdom. And I've also carried a lot of my teachers' wisdom and also my own wisdom. And I'm a firm believer that we are given people for a certain time because we need them at that time, whatever it is that they're teaching us, that they're helping us with, and then we outgrow it. And for a long time, like, I had teachers and people come to my aid and help me. And then there were times where I really, 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 really was like on my own. You're on your own. Like, that was me 100%. Like, I was really, really, really doing it, right? Without a helmet, without an armor, like I was doing it. And it helped me grow these spiritual wings. But then I realized, I'm like, okay, now this is great. But when does the teacher also need to go back to being a student? Not that I ever consider myself a teacher, but you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying, right? Sometimes we become a master at something. So we go and teach and we go and help others. But then true wisdom and true humility and integrity is understanding that we also need to stay learning and that we need to stay students and that we should also sometimes seek help from others and from divinity and tell God, Cosmo, the Most High, your higher self, and say, hey, I need help. Okay. Like, I am gassing out. I need someone. And it's so interesting because over the past month, I've been telling Source, I'm like, I am going to close the doors for now on this journey. I'm going to take care of myself. I feel like energetically, I am maxed out. I need to do what's right for me. And Spirit agreed. Like, it's a super pivotal moment in my life. I'm not going to lie. And then fast forward about like a couple days ago, I actually found the person that I will be working with for a while so that I can continue to learn and get better so that later on I can come back and be of service to others. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because a lot of us healers who are out here, we are so accustomed to giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. And I feel like if there's one thing that I feel like I kind of didn't practice, and that's why I'm being honest about it, because, honesty and integrity are so huge to me. Like, it's important for me to learn from people who have integrity. Like, my parents are two people that I feel like are so full of integrity, especially my dad. And I consider myself someone full of integrity. And it's important for me to also learn and who you select as a teacher, as a mentor, as someone you aspire to be, as someone you respect. You want to make sure that you are inspired. And for me, and this is no offense, this is not to jab at anyone. I have zero problems with anybody, honestly. But I never looked up to celebrities. I never looked up to influencers. The people that I looked up to were people that I very much knew. And I'm like, oh, that's the energy. Those are the people I want to learn from. And even the same thing with my mom. I was like, oh, that's the type of mother I want to be, right? That's a good human. Even my dad, I'm like, that's the type of man I want in my life, right? That's what I mean. And I think it's important to be around people who are full of integrity. But I also feel like when you're a giver, and you have a natural healing aura, you want to heal and you want to give and you want to give all the time, and that's amazing. But I think one thing I wasn't practicing was giving back to myself. I wasn't taking breaks as often as I should have. And the reason why I wasn't doing that was because I was so, like, my ego and my shadow were convincing me. And there's a lot of compassion in this because I get it. There was a point where I had to survive, whether in this lifetime or previous lifetimes before. So I always felt like if I took a break, it wasn't safe enough for me to take a break. So I just kept going and going. And if you know me personally, which I know some of you guys who are watching, obviously you guys are friends of mine and you know me personally, you know that I am a warrior and I will push. I will push and I will push. And it doesn't matter what I'm going through in life. I will continue to push and I will try to be as optimistic as I can. And I will always, even though I could be going through a lot, I will always help someone else because I know what it's like to literally not have anyone there. And I think I got to a point where I was so gassed out, I was running on fumes that I couldn't even do that. Like I couldn't even, and it gets me emotional, but it's like I couldn't even be there for my dog. Like even taking him out on a walk was like hard for me because I was just so tired, like mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, like in all senses of the word, I was just tired. And I know that because when I get this emotional, it's because I'm overstimulated. Like I was exhausted. And I even began questioning, like, why am I here? Like I miss home. I'm homesick for a place that is not on earth, even though I know I'm needed here. But I'm just going to be very honest with you guys. Like I was struggling with that. And I thought that by going to California, like it would fix it. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. I regret nothing. But it didn't fix the problem. If anything, it emphasized it even more because I was alone. So it kind of forced me to spend time with God. Not that time with God is forced, but you get what I'm trying to say. But it forced me to go in. And I think now I'm coming out of that. And I've unlearned so many things that now I'm like, okay, I wake up sometimes in the morning and I'm like, what is this body? You know what I mean? Like, has that ever happened to you where you're just like, you're literally healing through so much transgressional trauma and like releasing, just shedding and shedding and shedding and like doing these different layers. And you wake up and you're like, you look at photos and you're like, oh my God, like I know that's me, but it's like, I doesn't feel like it's me, you know? And I feel like that's where I was at. And I felt like I have a big responsibility here on planet Earth. I'm not from here, but I am in here. And I'm still figuring, just like you are figuring your life out, I am still figuring pieces of my life out. And there's two things here on earth that I am very clear on that I came here for. To experience love is one of them. And to make sure I fulfill my mission, whatever that mission is, right? And I feel like my ego sometimes had gotten the best of me of saying, well, the mission needs to be this, and it needs to be that, and it needs to be this way, and it needs to be that way, and it needs to be with so-and-so, and it needs to be like this. And then I feel like that reality, like I went through some sort of ego death in a way where I just like what they're showing me is like a glass just shattered. The glass just shattered, like the illusion just shattered. And I realized, I'm like, how many of these things that I've desired were kind of rooted in ego or like this fantasy or like this fallacy that I just kind of created in my mind because I thought it'd be a good idea. And by the way, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just realizing that it's not fulfilling because it's not coming from it's not coming from my soul. And I realize like how many of us are wanting to be with a certain person or like on a certain job or like in certain places because of our egoic desires, not necessarily because it's what our soul wants. And I realized that I'm genuinely the happiest whenever I'm following my soul. And to be honest with you, over the past, this has been going on for the past like 4 months, by the way, like very strongly, right? And I've been like fighting it tooth and nail, which is one of the reasons why I decided to not stay in California anymore and come back to Florida and also be with family. Because for the past 4 or 5 months, I've just been feeling like I don't want to do anything, you guys. Like I I didn't want to work with people. Like it's not that I don't love you guys. I very much do. I just felt like I was so gassed out. And I know I don't have to explain this, but it's just like the best way that I can. I was just so gassed out that I didn't want to take any more sessions. I didn't want to do tarot. Like I got to that point where I was just so exhausted of it all. I wanted to be the furthest away from it all. And I think it's because I've evolved. I've evolved past certain things, and it's sad. Like, I don't think we talk about how evolving past certain things can sometimes be difficult because it entails us leaping into the unknown. And the unknown is still something that's scary to me and something that I'm working through. And it's like it goes back to control. And even if you've been following me for a while back, you know that I've talked about my mental health a lot. I've talked about my struggles in the past with depression and like anxiety and OCD and stuff like that. And it's gotten way better. I think meditation, yoga, holding myself accountable, physical movement, being around the right people, consuming healthy things has helped. But then there are times where these things get triggered and they come back. And especially during times where things kind of seem out of control, my PMDD and then my OCD get really active. And then I get really like this, right? Like if you've done breath work, then you know the term lobster claws, right? Which is when you're holding on for dear life. And that's where I've been over the past 4 months, just like in survival mode. Like my sympathetic system has definitely been active, like survival mode. And my mental health was really struggling towards the end of my stay in California. And I decided to come back to family and to come back to my roots, to recharge, to regroup, to see and to feel and to kind of integrate. And I think that these past 3 weeks has been the finale of a lot of those things. And there's been like a lot of flashbacks and a lot of realizations. And I finally made the decision that I will be taking a break from sessions for a while. And how long will that while be? I'm not sure. But I know that outside of the physical, I need to do what's right for me. And I also feel like I'm leaning on God for a lot. And I've been healing my relationship to God for a lot. And when I talk about God, by the way, if you want to call him Hashem, if you want to call him Yeshua, Jah, whatever you resonate with, your higher self, these are all just labels, but the Creator, the Most High, the unconditional love, I've been healing my relationship with it, with him, with her, with it, because this next part of my journey is really about faith, walking by faith and not by fear. Because the reality is I don't know. My ego, my avatar doesn't know where it's going. My higher self knows. And I think I'm just so tired. And I was just telling my mom earlier, right? I was just telling my mom earlier, like, I'm tired of fighting the current. I feel like I've fought the current for so long, like the flow of the river. And I've been hitting rock and rock and rock and rock and rock and rock instead of just flowing and allowing God to just be my guide away from those rocks smoothly. And I've just like been kind of like hurting myself, right? Because what we resist persists. And it's like I've been resisting letting go of control. Just like letting go of control of all of it, even though my heart's not in it anymore. Like it's not. And I think it's because I was thinking, like, well, what's next for me? Like, what will I create? And I already know. Like, that's the thing is like, if you're watching this video, you already know what you want. I always say this and I will continue to say this. You already know what you want. You already know, your heart's already speaking to you. It's just usually when the heart speaks, the mind also speaks. And the mind usually comes up with a million and one reasons as to why you shouldn't trust your heart. Oh, because it's not practical. Oh, because it doesn't make sense. Oh, because it doesn't fit this box. Oh, because you don't know what's going to happen. But the reality is like the only constant is change. And you either go with change or you're forced into change. Nothing stays the same. And I think that's one thing that I've been learning so much recently is like nothing's going to stay the same. I change every day. A new hair follicle grows. Like my routine's never the same. My emotions are never the same. Like they're very fleeting, right? And I just feel like for so long I've just been holding for dear life for things that are no longer fulfilling me. And I started realizing I'm like, okay, not only am I doing this with my life purpose and my mission, which I'm so grateful for, it got me to this point, but maybe I'm not meant to be doing this forever. Maybe now I'm meant to just go all in on content creation and trust and have fun with it, like without a specific outcome or like expectations. I feel like we go into things with a lot of expectation. And look, I'll put myself out there. Guilty, guilty, guilty. I'll put myself out there. Like I put way too many expectations on things. And the reason why I do this, by the way, is because of ego, obviously, duh. And because at the end of the day, we're afraid because we don't trust that things are working out exactly as they should be and as they are by a divine force. And lately, I've just been challenging myself to kind of to let go of the control. And control looks different for everyone, right? And I talked about this on my last video where I said, control for me was like going and consulting tarot and making sure and going into meditation, seeking answers when that's not the whole purpose of meditation. It's not to seek answers, it's just to release the need to have them, right? Isn't that ironic? So, anyways, all that to say, huge metamorphosis happening right now on my end, to the point where my physical body's changing. I'm not even joking. My soul purpose, how I'm showing up, is changing. My relationships are changing. That one's a little bit of a painful one. The relationship within myself is changing, and just me. And I'm having a feeling that it's going to be for the best. But I also would be lying to you if I said that it wasn't tough in this moment, So I'm holding on to that faith and that trust. And the number one thing, if you're going to take anything away from this video, however long you stuck around, put yourself first. Put your mental health first. Put God first. Put divinity first. And take care of yourself. Because at the end of the day, you are the only thing you have. And we cannot pour onto others from an empty vessel. You just can't. And I know that it's cliche, but take it from someone who has had the privilege to pour into so many people and got to a point where I almost forgot about myself. And it makes me emotional. And I'm giving myself so much compassion because little P loves so much that she wants to help. And It's forgiveness for myself because I should have been helping me first before helping others. And I did that at some point, but then the tank ran low and I failed to look at that. And I forgive myself for that. I forgive myself for that, and it's never too late. That's the beauty about having yourself, is that you can always come back to yourself. You can always come back home. And that's what I'm doing right now. So if you're going through a tough time right now, and I know that some people are not fortunate enough where they can just take a pause and just focus on themselves and like do this and stay focused. I get that. But maybe you can start with baby steps, right? Like if you're feeling so gassed out right now, if work is too much, if school is too much, if relationships are too much or whatever, like maybe you can find little practical steps that help you pour onto you. And maybe that's connecting to God. Maybe that's connecting to source. Find something, okay? Forget about this whole spiritual capitalism and all this whole bunch of shindig that they tell you, okay? Forget about it. Find your north and your center and the things that replenish you and that give you life, and eliminate, if you can, or completely remove the things that are not life-giving, and focus on you. Because when you shine and you're full genuinely, and I'm not talking about physically looking good, because you can look physically good and feel terrible inside. Absolutely terrible, okay? When you feel good inside and outside, everything just starts flowing effortlessly. And that is our natural state. Our natural state is that of effortless ease and attraction. So we're all going through it right now on a collective level. We're all super connected. And if you're going through a death and rebirth right now, your mental health is very important. And I hope that you take this as a sign. Maybe you've been looking for a sign that you're breaking through, and that it takes time. Like, this metamorphosis stage is like difficult, and it's painful, and it's gruesome. And so allow yourself to grieve, allow yourself to cry, allow yourself to not know, and to sit in the unknown, and to sit in that, and allow that to be your strength. And if you can, and if you have access, use that to alchemize it into something positive for others, or maybe just for yourself, right? Give back in a way. So always remember that you are your number one priority, not the job, not the people. I'm not saying don't be considerate of others. Of course, we all need each other to support each other, right? We're not meant to be doing this all alone. Otherwise, we'd be alone in a planet. We'd each have one planet for each of us. So I want to hear it in the comments. What I'm saying is you have to pour onto yourself first before you can pour onto others. And it's okay to take a step back. It's okay to take a step back. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to get off social media. It's okay to say, hey, I need a minute. You're allowed that. You're allowed that. It's okay to say, I don't want to do that. And that's not for me anymore. I changed my mind. I want to do this. Or to sit back and be like, you know what? I don't know. And I'm going to give myself time to not know. It's all okay. It's your journey. It's your time. And if you need help, if you're wanting help, seek help. It's okay to also ask for help. It's okay to admit that you're struggling. And it's okay to admit that maybe you bit off a little more than you can chew. And just allow God and the universe to kind of bring forth the people that can aid you during this time. So with that being said, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for sticking around. I'm sending you guys so much love. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the love and the support constantly. And if you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok, as I post a lot of readings over there and different type style content, but it's always going to be me. And don't worry, not every video is going to be this emotional. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things that I think are going to be beneficial for a lot of us and very healing to hear, because none of this whole spiritual bypassing, not about it, not in this age of Aquarius or whatever transits are going on right now. I lost track. So, with that being said, you guys, I'm sending you guys so much love. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next video.